Hello CEI participants, it's me again, AJ Adams, with another NASA mentorship video. In this video, we're going to discuss the various types of questions that you might ask your mentee while walking them through the mentor-mentee process. We will also discuss bringing problems of practice to the mentor-mentee relationship through identifying a problem of practice within their work environment and setting goals to ultimately solve the problem with your mentee. Now, there are various types of questions that occur every day, all the time. Yet, there are specific types of questions that are better utilized during a time where you want to extract information out of somebody, while also providing that person a learning experience, such as in the mentor-mentee relationship. Closed questions, for example, they elicit a response of one-word answers, like yes or no. These typically aren't the best for generating discussions or a learning experience, right? So just like in the classroom, those DOK level 1 questions that ask for a one-word response out of students definitely and absolutely are not the best for creating rich discussions in the classroom, nor are they good for providing metacognition and productive discourse among students. So if you ever feel like you're in a doctor's office when you're working with your mentor or mentee and someone is just asking you yes or no questions based on a checklist, and that pretty much sums up your conversation, you definitely are not in a meaningful or a productive mentor-mentee relationship. So the two types of questions that I found that are most useful when engaging with your mentee are open-ended questions and probing questions. So open-ended questions encourage thinking and elaboration and perhaps stringing together prior knowledge and thinking about what you might do in a situation that you may never have been involved in before. So, if you bring a problem of practice into the conversation and ask your mentee what they might do in that situation, say if they were the leader or the boss in charge, well, that's a good open-ended question, and it's a good conversation starter where they really actually have to think about that problem or issue, whatever it might be, and they have to put themselves in the shoes of being that leader or being that boss, if you will, and also come up with possible solutions. The next type of questioning that I don't find people do enough is asking probing questions. I like to say it's all about the devil in the details, right? So at times I like to refer to probing questions as sometimes when you're asking probing questions, you can kind of chunk up or you can chunk down based on the amount of information. If you need less information and larger details, you chunk up. If you need more information and more details, you chunk down. So for example, as far as chunking down, you might have an employee or somebody come and tell you that transportation is all taken care of for the first week we're back at school and you have nothing to worry about. Depending on your relationship with that person, you may want to ask a few more questions. I know I certainly would. So, first off, I might ask, hey, transportation being taken care of, that's a broad concept. What does that mean to you? Explain that to me, please. You definitely are going to want to have them explain what taking care of means and give you a little more details, especially if you're a leader in the building or really anybody in the building, if we're talking specifically school, right? Then you can go into different types of questions. There's a lot of them. Some that just come to mind are, do we have all of the routes documented? Are there seating charts? Do students and parents have this information? Do we have anticipated pickup and drop-off times? Who do we contact if there's a problem? Have we met with the drivers yet to welcome them to our school? Do we have signs to provide the bus drivers for our school? Do we have multiple copies of transportation routes for people assisting students so that they can find their buses on the first day of school, etc.? The list can go on and on, right? But you can see how all of those questions really provide a lot more information clearly than transportation on the first day of school or first week of school is taken care of. You can also chunk up through probing questions as well. That's when you have somebody coming to you explaining every single detail about a project. Now, if you think about it, if you are a leader and you're on a leadership team, or if you have employees that report to you, or even students in a classroom, if you think hard, you can probably tell just by your interactions over time, those people or students that you end up having to ask probing questions and have them chunk down because they don't give you enough detail right away. And there's others that you typically are asking probing questions and have them chunking up because they just give you way too much information and you have to sift through to figure out really what's important or what they're talking about. So an example of this, would be, an employee that has a question for you and they begin by just starting rattling things off, telling you that, their cat is sick and their water heater, went out the night before. There's only like a 4-hour window that the repairman can come by, and they also want to make sure that they have perfect attendance last year and they have somebody to cover them. You get the point, right? Yet they don't ever get around to actually asking you to take the day off or asking you the question that they really want to. So sometimes you don't need or want all of those details. Sometimes you just want them to chunk up and ask you what they really want. So those chunking up and chunking down types of probing questions can definitely be helpful when you're just trying to get to the information that's most meaningful to you. So it also provides you an opportunity to gain a better understanding of everything and where they're coming from. So I find the probing questions useful, again, as we've discussed, when I need clarification. And a lot of times, like such as in investigations, I need to understand, if I'm not there, if I'm not in a situation, I am going to always probe, and ask those questions until I understand, myself, all of the details that I need in order to picture in my mind, almost as if I was really there, experiencing it, right? Because a lot of times when you don't ask those questions, or the devil is in the details, right? You are going to miss out on some things that could really change what your response might be. So in that case, you can ask the person to chunk down and ask probing type of questions in order to receive the information that's most important to me so that I in turn can make the best decision for whatever situation. Summarizing is another form of questioning, and it's very effective when working with your mentee or anybody for that matter. Most of the times, after again listening to them, listening to what they have to say, it's very easy to just repeat back to them, right? So say, I will just state, okay, let me repeat back to you what you just said and what I think I've heard, just so that I understand you correctly. This is very, very effective when communicating. So, I will then summarize it, I'll repeat it back to them, and tell them, repeat back what they were telling me. Now, this does two things. So it allows the person that's communicating and talking to me to know that, one, I was actually listening, okay? And it allows me to repeat back what I think I heard to them and also explain in my own words, just for understanding, for mutual understanding. Now, if they validate what I repeat back to them is accurate, then we both understand exactly what was said in the conversation, and we both know that we have a common understanding of what was said to move forward, right? So, this also does another thing. So if done often, if I do it often in my day-to-day interactions, or maybe there is a tense conversation that's going on, I may go into this mode, and it really enables me, if I'm going in my mind like, okay, I'm going to repeat this back to them just because it's very complex or it's very tense, and I want to make sure that I fully understand where they're coming from and what they're saying, then it holds me accountable to, again, really listening to what they're saying. So this is very, very effective and useful in a mentor-mentee relationship. It's as effective as it is at home with an angry parent or a child. So, one quick note on tone, if you will, like we discussed, it's typically not what you say, but how you say it. Tone, context, annotation, body language, it all helps us make, sense of what is being asked of us and what is really being communicated. But what happens when you throw, technology into the mix and you place a digital screen between the conversation? Now, I'm not talking a video like this, but I'm talking more as far as text messaging and emails. So, what I might interpret through a certain text or an email, you all watching this video might have 50 different interpretations and reactions. So, again, be cognizant of your recipients, and they might be taking your communication the way that you are trying to express yourself, or they might be taking your communication a different way. So another word of advice on those angry, upset, emotional, written communication, things that you can't unsend or can't take back, write it out, type it out, do not hit send, pause, take a day, sleep on it, think about it, and then come back to it the next day prior to just firing it off. That will save you a lot of headache and a lot of regret. Bringing problems of practice to the mentor-mentee relationship is a great way to work with someone over a period of time. Now, I know for this purpose, we don't have a long period of time to work with a mentee, work with the mentee-mentor relationship, but this will allow you to focus on one issue or problem that needs to be solved. So there is the art of mentorship, the art of mentoring, and the inner workings of the mentor-mentee relationship, but then there's also bringing in real-life practices and problems of practice from your work environment to really work that mentor-mentee process, right? So you first would start with having your mentee identify a problem of practice within their work environment. And by using the goal setting techniques that we've used and discussed in other videos, you then can strategically map out and attack the problem of practice over time and set goals until you ultimately solve the problem together. Now, some people have asked, AJ, right, so what if my mentor or mentee is in a different position or a different field that I just don't fully understand, right? There is only certain positions that unless you've been there, done that, or you're sitting in that chair that you completely understand. And the beauty of it is as a mentor, you're a guide, okay? You are guiding them through. You don't need to be an expert in all-knowing or omniscient, omnipotent, whatever word you want to use. You do not need to be an expert in the field that you are mentoring somebody in. It helps if you know a little bit about it. However, this process, again, it's a process. If you listen well, if you listen to them well, and you consistently guide them and ask them the right types of questions, you can still guide somebody in another field or another position. You can still guide somebody through this process and have them come up with solutions on their own, to eventually solve their own problems. Again, you're not there to just give them answers. You're there to guide them. So with that said, your next steps after this video is have your mentee come up with a problem of practice. In this case, a smaller problem of practice. That's whether it's in their school, classroom, office, organization, something that they could potentially solve themselves or assist somebody with solving the issue. This isn't a problem of practice that would be district-wide unless you're a superintendent, or statewide unless you're in a statewide organization or the state superintendent, right? So after your mentee shares with you their problem of practice, utilize some of the techniques that you've learned and begin asking them probing questions until you really are able to get to the root of their problem. If you don't feel that you're at the root of their problem, you need to keep probing and keep digging more, right? Chunking down. Once you find the root of their problem, then try to walk your mentee through possible solutions, not try, but walk them through possible solutions that they could come up with additional questioning techniques, that we've been discussing. So, again, remember that you are their guide. You're not there to necessarily solve all of their problems for them, but guide them towards their own potential solutions. And, ultimately, once they come up with solutions on their own, if they want feedback, provide them feedback, So those are the best ways to really get through some problems of practice, at least in my professional experience, in my personal experience. And, like I said, devil's in the details, and it's all about how you communicate and about how you say it versus what you say. So that's all I have for this episode. Thank you so much again for watching, and as always, go out there and strive to become a better leader today than you were yesterday.